Hello, it's Philip Taylor speaking from Richmond Green Chambers in London. This morning I'm looking at the new edition of a book from Oxford University Press. Very much the house style for OUP, this book. It's called Minority Shareholders. It's got a subtitle, Law, Practice and Procedure, and it's now in the 5th edition. It's been written by a number of people. Victor Joffe, I think that's how he pronounces his name, it could be Joffe, but Victor Joffe, Queen's Counsel, Derek Drake, Giles Richardson, Daniel Lightman and Timothy Collingwood. And Elizabeth and I have given this book a title, The Established and Authoritative Work of Reference in this Specialist Area of Law, now in a new edition. Let's have a look at the book first of all. It's very much the house style for OUP. There it is, the front, spine, there's nothing on the back. The book is a hardback. It runs to 600 odd pages. There's a nice index at the back, which you can see there. And that's a quite detailed index, which is helpful because you may be wanting to look for information in quite a detailed area. There's the front cover. And then there's a nice dedication, which I like to just mention there. And then you've got a foreword from Lord Justice Briggs. Always worth reading the forewords. They give you some idea of what's in the book. There's a preface from the authors as well, which is dated July 2014. Then you've got the contents pages, and you can see the names of the people who contributed to the various chapter headings are listed there. And then you've got 8 chapters in all, and then there's an appendix at the back. So each one has got a particular area. There's a lot of case law, of course, a lot of cases, a little legislation, Companies Act, of course, and other jurisdiction legislation, quite useful, because this has obviously got much wider coverage. There's the abbreviation, not very many of them, but they're always useful to have. And then you've got the introduction itself. You've got a little index right at the front, which tells you what it's all about. You've got obviously footnoting, you can see there. You've got some subheads. That's the main introduction. Then we launch into the first chapter itself, Director's Duties. You see there's the index at the front, so you should be able to find what you're looking for quite quickly. Then you've got paragraph numbering, not on this side, but on that side, which is now, when you're looking at it, it's on the right-hand side. So you see it's there. So you should be able to find what you're looking for pretty quickly. Again, just running through duties to promote. This is promotions. Just to start off, we always start off with that in corporate law, company law. There are the footnotes you can see there, and then running through, it's a lot of multiple derivative claims, representative claims, limits to the no reflective loss principle. So this is a very detailed work. Rectification of register of members, remedies, and so forth. Case management right at the end. Companies Act, of course, featuring strongly. A good book. Very much. I would like to have had this book actually when I was doing my LLB many years ago. We didn't have this sort of information available then as company law documents. And in fact, the books we had then were nothing like as clear with the clarity of expression that we now have. This book has been extremely well written by the authors, as we would expect from OUP. They always come up with a very good standard, and this is absolutely maintaining that. This is what we say anyway about the position of minority shareholders. Always an important area. Can be very emotional if you're dealing with a client. I certainly had one or two where they feel that they really are treated very badly. So this book is something that they might like to read if it's relevant. It is actually it's a heavy-ish book. So it wouldn't be for everybody, let me put it that way, but it's certainly a very useful book for practitioners. This is what we say. The petition, the position, not the petition, the position of minority shareholders within a company is all too often precarious, is it not? What I said a bit earlier. Yet, how many companies could continue to exist without them? Could be the backbone, you see, even though they're minorities. Enter, therefore, this new, or relatively new-ish, specialist field of law, which places minority shareholders at the centre of analysis and inquiry. This is, to quote Lord Justice Briggs, relatively confined but complex and fascinating as an area of law. This is what Briggs says in his foreword. What a benefit then for hard-pressed practitioners that this highly regarded work of reference came into being in the year 2000, and reflecting the continuing change in this field is now out in a new 5th edition from OUP. Now obviously the year 2000, the companies legislation was beginning to be looked at again, and we had the Consolidated Act. So you can see how it's had to come out to take account of all the changes since we had the previous Companies Acts from the 40s and of course from the 80s. This book is divided logically into 8 chapters, as I've shown you at the beginning, following a thought-provoking introduction by co-author David Drake. In an area of law which revolves around a mixture of statutory and common law, and equity as well, the book first presents a discussion on directors' duties for Chapter 1, and it's expanded in this new edition, which reveals a formidable number of problem areas, or grey areas you might call them, which, as is the case with other subject areas dealt with in this book, are elaborated throughout by judicial commentary and case law, and there is, as you gather, a very large amount of case law at the front listed. Derivative claims and personal claims are covered in chapters 2 and 3, while rights conferred on shareholders by the Companies Act 2006 are dealt with in the 4th chapter, which focuses on such issues, for example, as class rights, company meetings and inspection of registers. And in Chapter 5, petitions for the winding up of a company are examined in detail, whilst Chapters 6 and 7, the focus moves to the substantive and procedural aspects of petitions under the Companies Act 2006. The most significant new material, however, is contained in Chapter 8, which is headed Foreign Aspects. Again, we're part of the global community. It reflects the dramatic increase in cross-border and global business. And this chapter includes, in the words of the authors, discussion of jurisdictional and procedural problems arising in relation to foreign companies and parties. At this point, we think it's important to quote Briggs again, who refers to Chapter 8 as a tour de force of compressed analysis and practical detail, without which no practitioner, or we would say judge in this field, can expect safely to sail these turbulent and rock-strewn international waters. What a good piece of imagery that comes up with. Let me conclude by saying practitioners charged with navigating their clients through such turbulent channels of legal complexity would be well advised to keep a copy of this authoritative work of reference conveniently to hand. In addition, the book provides extensive tables of cases and of legislation, and there's a useful appendix containing 170 pages of forms and precedents at the back. You'll also note from the preface that all the royalties from this work are being donated to charities for disadvantaged children and Médecins Sans Frontières. The publication date is cited at July 2014. It's a tribute that they have actually sent the royalties to these decent organisations. Let me just show you the appendix, because again there's it's got precedents in it. There's no CD, by the way, with this, but you have got precedents, particulars of claim, very useful, certainly for counsel. And then there are more precedents here in relation to derivatives, for instance. And then you've got witness statement, again very useful. Witness statement in support of claim for rectification of the share register. I think these are very useful for people with not that much knowledge of the way that the system operates, but it does actually help. And for instance, you've got a directions order here, which again counsel may be asked to draft. So you've actually got examples without having to go to some of the main Atkin forms or whatever you may be using. And then again at the back you've got the index, which I mentioned. Then if we just go to the front again, I'll just pick any area that's quite helpful. Class rights, popular area. Rights conferred on shareholders by the 2006 Act. Again, you see how it's structured. I'm very pleased with this book. OUP have done themselves proud again, I think, with this excellent title. I'd like to thank the authors and all the people involved in this for producing something which is of great benefit to us as barristers at law, certainly in drafting. I think it's very useful in a much wider area as well for practitioners and anybody who is actually perhaps a minority shareholder who would like to read into the subject a little bit more. It's a readable book. I mean, some of these books in the past used to be really rather difficult, I have to know. I'm not going to mention any names, but having done them when I was an undergraduate, I do understand the difficulties. So thank you to all concerned for an excellent publication again. Bye-bye.